Beautiful. Just take a deep breath with you. And another one. One final one. Thank you to my brother Nils for joining this delicately wild podcast, and to all of the listeners, all of my hundreds and thousands of listeners. Woohoo! Yeah, welcome to the podcast. So today I have my brother Nils, and if you've been following the stream, this is really an interview process where I'm bringing in the candidates that are joining the AZURITE Temple, which is a 7-month coaching container that will probably, maybe it kind of feels like and seems like, may become my new focus in terms of next path of mine, which is really interesting. And just to let everybody know, I'm feeling absolutely fucking horrible this morning. Terrible. I wanted to cancel on many occasions based on the honoring of how I felt. However, there was also this whole entire thing of AZURITE Temple got created through absolute resistance. So it's like this diamond being formed through, huge amounts of pressure. And on the day that it got formed was like, I also had a meeting with someone that I needed in my mental body. I needed to cancel it, and I didn't. And here we go. I've just said that this might be the next phase of my life's work. So I decided, fuck it, let me show up. And yeah, so everybody excuse if I sort of seem a bit dreamy and drifty, but I am still excited to have my dear friend Nils online. We have known each other for quite some time, and I'm honored to have him in the AZURITE Temple. Yeah, so Nils, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. How have you been?
Yes, I've been good. There's been some ups and downs with my sleep, but right now it's been good for 5 days now, so I'm back on track.
Okay, I want to actually, this is a cool topic, I guess. It's like we know that our days are like on earth, right? Like we have our whole lives, like we have 90 years. Let's call it 90 years, right? Like how much of your mental process goes into wondering if you're going to sleep well or not?
Yeah.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot. And as soon as I don't sleep one night, then it becomes like a lot.
A bit of a panic.
Yeah. But so I've been like struggling and working with the sleep, with getting better at sleeping for the past 2 years or 3 years or so. So, and right now the panic it's much less a thing. But yeah, it sucks so much to be sleep deprived. So it's hard not to go into old patterns very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think brings it on? Is I'm sure we have had a conversation about this, but I've had many conversations with many people about many things. But it's like, it's kind of like ADD, but not like in the sense that like people are like, oh, wow, I just did an online survey and it turns out I'm ADD and ADHD. And I'm like, well, what does it matter, right? Like, so great, we've now categorized ourselves and we've made ourselves feel validated. and not so isolated, that we can now fit into a category that dictates that we function in this way and not that way, right? And so with like sleep deprivation, so a lot of people like that would say, yes, but it makes sense of why I can't work properly and why I can't focus and this and that and the next. And I'll always say, well, you know, that's wonderful information, but I can pretty much guarantee you that it's the whole entire planet that struggles to focus, struggles to work, struggles to be in a system that is dictated by others and creates restriction on our natural flow. So the reason I bring this in is like with the sleep pattern, and again, remind me if we have had this conversation, but with the sleep pattern, it's like, do we create the panic because we think we're supposed to be sleeping, or are we depriving ourselves of a natural flow state where your creative genius may come out during the hours of midnight to 4 a.m. and maybe you should be sleeping during the day? Like, I don't know.
No, yeah, that's interesting because yeah, I've relaxed more into that now as well, and realized that I go through cycles, and yeah, when there's something big happening, I usually don't sleep afterwards. If there's like a big party or some big ceremony or something, and then my mind usually wants to create and draw and do stuff. So I become better at allowing myself, like, it feels like I'm not going to be able to sleep now, and not stress too much about it.
I guess the issue is, so when we come back to the defined way that we should be living based on the system, it would dictate that we've got a job to attend the next day, and that is where we start to create restrictions around our natural flow. Because let's say, for example's sake, you were to allow yourself that natural flow from midnight to 4 a.m., knowing that the next day you are free from any corporate requirements based on your job, and you could say, well, if I fall asleep at 11 o'clock to 3 p.m., then cool, I'm flowing within my natural state. But I guess maybe that's where the panic comes in the mental.
No, I've got to work and I got to perform and produce. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Nils.
Well, I come from Sweden. I've been living here my whole life, and I love to sing and draw since I was a little kid. I didn't realize that I could just do that my entire life. So I had a few years in my teens and early 20s when I stopped doing that in a way. And now I've found myself to like shamanism and meditation. I've started to release myself and work with myself and work with the shadow aspects of myself. And yeah, now the drawing and the singing is becoming more and more a lot more natural part of who I am again. And yes, I've been
I was going to say, I mean, being from Sweden, I think we had a conversation once of like, I think you were trying to explain to me the difference between like the Norwegians and the Swedish in terms of ancient lineage, differentiating factors being shaman or Viking. Like, would you talk us through that a little, like, and how it pertains to you?
So I saw this Norwegian dude who do history, a lot about Viking history, and he was talking about the differences between the Norwegian Vikings and the Swedish Vikings and the Danish Vikings. And
let's not forget the Danes.
So the Danes were mostly farmers, he said, and the Norwegians were the ones who were going on the ships and doing the raids, and like the warrior, more traditional Vikings in that sense. And then the Swedes were the Vikings that kept the tradition and the religion and the spiritual part of the Nordic traditions.
Culture, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the sacred places were here, and and that connects with me a lot.
What is the group of those? I mean, so I would label them the Scandinavian medicine people, right? But it's like the Sardis, or
Sami, hello, Sapmi people.
Say again.
Sapmi.
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 Okay, Sapmi. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're the what's it called? Like natives of Sweden and Norway and Finland, and they're like related to also in Russia, the Siberian tribes and all of that. So they have.
Do they speak a different language? Like it's like even if they're coming from different land masses, they are Sapmi lineage, and they're speaking a completely different language.
Yes, and I've heard they have 2 languages. Maybe they have even more, but yeah, they have their own language and their own culture and their own type of shamanism. So their shamans are called neighbours, and they use drumming is what I've seen mostly. I'm not at all educated in their traditions or anything like that. But they were definitely, them and the Vikings did completely different things.
Yeah, so in terms of lifestyle and so would you describe the one as more interconnected to higher dimensional realms, speaking from a spiritual perspective and living those spiritual teachings into their earth reality, and the Vikings were just like, let's accumulate land and women?
Maybe the Norwegians, the Swedes were
yeah.
I'm too I know too little to know.
No worries. But I mean, the drumming part of the Scandinavian shamanism is a big part of your reality, right? Chat us through your musical journey into coming to shamanic drumming.
So from the beginning, I just loved to sing, and I went to church a lot because most of both my mom's and my dad's entire families are very Christian, so I were in church a lot, and I loved to sing there. And so I used to go around and sing whenever I went to school and were by myself and stuff. So I've always just loved to sing, and eventually I started in a death metal band and started do growling and really heavy dark stuff, which was really it was closely like connected with my ego then, and like my teenage depression and anxiety could get its voice there. But then when I like got my first awakening and started realize what love was, or how I could love myself, and I became a hippie instead.
From death metal to hippie.
Yes. So I went on a beginner's course in shamanism, where drum journeying specifically up in the north part of Sweden. I had a chat with my dad one evening, and he told me that he had gone to this sort of course, and I didn't know about shamanism at all then, and didn't know that he knew anything about it either. but it just sounded like something I needed to do, and I went up there, and then came back and bought my first shaman drum like a couple of days later here in Gothenburg. And yeah, then I just started doing drum journeying by myself and with my friends, and yeah, and I love that the drum work, so it's so intuitive, and yeah, once you start drumming, your body, you can sort of let go, and your body does the drumming, and you can flow.
Yeah. And what does drum journeying mean to you? Because I know you're taking people on a journey. Describe that journey for the viewers.
Sure. So drum journeying is yeah, a technique really it's the monotone, it's monotone drumming. So when I started, I wanted to do a lot of cool things, but my teacher, a human teacher, told me, no, the important thing is that it should be just monotone, and it's something so it's just like very sciencey. It changes your brain frequency into, so you go into a trance. So it's one of the most efficient and easiest ways that I know to put people into trance.
Okay.
And then depending on the tradition and the cultural shamanic
creation
framework,
story, framework,
you create the story, and you journey with this trance into
wherever you guide them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can use it for so much, and guide people to sing out or go in, and
Interesting. Yeah, that's that monotone drumming. But I mean, how many minutes, how long is your drum journey? Like how long does that beat, that monotone beat, need to be there for us to drop into altered states of consciousness?
It seems like people need around 20 minutes or so, and it's very personalized, and like once you learn how to go into trance, it seems like your brain knows what to do. But I hear a lot of people like telling me, so I do 30 minutes of drumming, and a lot of the time, for the first people who do it for the first time tell me like towards the end they tap in and they can go to the spirit world. Like probably the trance starts a little bit earlier, but yeah.
I feel for me as well, it's like so if you're doing shamanic journeys or shamanic drum journeys between your strawman job, and do those last about an hour or 30 minutes?
30 minutes of the drumming, and then there's like a part of it is the preparation and smoke and fire and cleansing and singing and breathing. So about an hour is the full ceremony, and I don't know exactly how much part the preparation is, but it's very important to me.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to chat, like you mentioned, and then of course we drop them in and we take them through a certain framework. Those were your words, which I like that wording. I mentioned we all guide them through a certain creation story. I think you and I have recently had a discussion on my last visit to Sweden. By the way, guys, I just married Nils and his beautiful wife Madeleine. So woo, yes, this man's taken.
Ceremony.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. But we were discussing like the frameworks, right? So the Kathara grid versus the grid system that I know you were using as artwork for a new album that he's launched. We'll chat about that as well. But that system for the artwork for the album you launched, is this the same framework that you would have been using in the drum journeys? And where is your, just chat about your kind of perspective on these frameworks based on the conversations you and I have, the depth that we go into with regards to AI. Just so you know, we've jumped quite a lot here on the timeline, but I know Nils knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah.
Because essentially we're taking people into altered state. Yes, they're not on mushrooms. But you know, it's not like they're like chakras are wide open. I mean, they may be. I'm not saying they're not, but they're not on plant medicine. So people kind of think, oh, well, it's just a little drum journey, but we are taking them into a space of trance. I think frameworks are important here.
Yeah. So I use different frameworks for meditations, and then I do drum journeys.
Yes.
So in the drum journeys, I've used the like traditional. It's not Scandinavian or Nordic. It's like very universal, or it's the same in many places around the globe. So it's the three layers of the spirit world. So we have the middle world, and that looks like this normal 3D reality, and you can travel to South Africa or Sweden, and you can visit your pets and your family, and be in the spiritual side of this world. And then you have the overworld up in the sky, and you have the underworld down in the earth. And I mean, these I see them very archetypical, but not as energetic grids. But I haven't thought through this, and it's hard to put into words.
I like that answer. I'm seeing them as archetypical. I think that's a fitting answer, and also one that is matches. It matches. So yeah, that makes sense to me. And obviously, you now have brought in your personal meditation space. How has that changed with regards to framework / grid work / creation story?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, just to let everyone know, like from my perspective, you know, my skill set, I think, as a medicine woman and a teacher, is to really there's like this clear cognizant flair that I have to understand a soul, right? So, and to draw that soul's gift, to observe that soul in their gift, and then assist them in drawing that gift out and bringing that gift into the world. So from my perspective, I would say Nils is very developed in his third eye, has a strong connection to the unseen realms, and of course has a fabulous voice and is an amazing musician and artist, etc. But from the soul aspect, that's which we call the intangible, I think you have a great connection there. And from my observation on this planet, it's like those with that kind of connection, we get tested in many ways, but we also have phenomenal experiences. So yeah, just, you know, I'm just opening up the spectrum quite broadly there. Chat in your own way and your flow, and go for it. Yeah.
So it's interesting with the meditation. I don't know what the wording was, but the way I've worked with energy and my sort of belief system in my meditations. So when I started learning meditation, I went to a teacher called Søren Henriksson, and he was very deep into like Hindu tradition. So not because of him, we didn't work a lot with chakras with him, but he was the reason I went to India eventually, and where I met Brigitte, which was amazing. I thank the universe for that. But there in India, I went to a Kriya Yoga ashram, and there I connected with the chakras and started doing meditations with that, and I still use them, and they've been great for many different things. Then eventually now I started reading up on Kabbalah, the Kabbalism. And they had their 10-pointed tree, which are the 10 aspects of God and of existence and all of this. And the Kabbalistic worldview or mysticism grabbed me a lot. I connected with it a lot. But it was very hard for me to understand, and I hadn't had time to apply it in any real way to my meditations. So when Brigitte came and told me that she worked with the 10-point tree and
12-point tree.
Yes. It wasn't triggering for me to just like, okay, I don't, let's see what this is, because I hadn't figured out how to use the Kabbalistic system that much. So now with the Kathara grid, that's what I've been working more with now, and I sort of combine it a lot with the chakra system, because there are some points that overlap and stuff, but it's been really like expanding and empowering with the bigger grid system, because I've been feeling like, okay, I go through my 7 chakras and I am in this body and sort of above and stuff, and I've been seeing images, and like I know that the energy flows out, but I don't know what happens outside of my little field. And it's been really nice to start stabilizing myself and do grid work. So that's like my frontier right now. And
and I mean, you've had we've had some fucking wild experiences together, actually. So besides meeting each other in India, where it was very interesting, because I remember you drumming, and you, like, if anyone's heard Nils's voice, by the way, maybe let's say, what is your album name at the moment, and where can people get hold of it?
They can go onto Spotify and search for Himlafärd. It's HIMLAFARD. My band name is Ginung. We'll see. We'll
I'll put it in the information. But
it's in Swedish.
in India, it was like I was listening to you drum and listening to you sing, and I remember, this is before I knew anything about you, no biases, no preconceived ideas. I was like, this man is holding his voice back. Like, I think I remember telling you, I was like, open it up, like let it unleash itself, but which I have now since heard and think that space is unleashed. So I was speaking about wild experiences. So we've had India together. Obviously we had South Africa, where we did a cool sound journey in this little cave. I remember someone listening and actually almost falling off of the mountain, someone else. I don't know if you remember that. We had the experience last year where I was in the lake. And so this is interesting. Like, I'm just sharing in terms of how friends and pillars of light, how pillars of light work together, how the grid system works together. So I'm in this freezing cold Swedish lake, and I start feeling the energy of the lake. There's no better way to describe it, like this actually very feminine feeling, like kind of mermaidy, very ancient stirring from the bottom of this lake. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm being spoken to. And anyway, I started twirling in the water. It's freezing cold, DMT is rushing through, and I'm channeling. Nils is on the other side on the land, and many hours later I say, okay Nils, like, he was like, how is that for you? I was like, well, how is it for you? Like, you know, because obviously, again, the teaching here is we are going to experience things from completely different perspectives, because from our own pillars. And yeah, Niels was like, well, I kind of saw you anchoring a portal. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, amazing. Like, that's interesting, because now I understand what I'm doing, particularly in bodies of water. And I've also been dreaming about this week as well. And then another wild experience we had, the reason I was on this topic, Kathara grids.
Was it our forest with Madeline?
Yeah. Oh yes. So we had the forest session with Madeline, and also your house. I've had some pretty gnarly dreams in your house. But the forest session with Madeline, where first of all, it was an absolute blessing, because we only had 2 days of sun in the whole 5 weeks that I was there. Yes. And that happened to be over Niels and Madeleine's wedding, which was really, thank you to the heavenly realms, or thank you to our manifestation and creation, since it is ours, right? Right. Yeah, and we had this spectrum of light frequencies coming into the forest on the day that I did their union codes before doing individual pillar work with them. But Niels and I have capacity to go deep into theories, let's say theories and discussions about AI as well. And how this got brought up, just to kind of wrap it up with the whole Kathara, the Kathara grid versus the Kabbalah grid system, 10 base mathematics versus the 12 base mathematics, was, you know, I don't like to interfere too much on a soul path, but when someone is a good friend of mine, or I know that I'm not going to trigger them by saying, hey, do you want to just look at this thing, bearing in mind that I'm also learning at any particular point in time. But it was when you were mentioning Trismegistus, right? And it's funny because I've had 2 dreams about that before I came to you, and kind of recently again. And I'm like, and the emerald tablets and all of that. And so, you know, it's basically these, now we look at this and go, oh, these are Thothian anti-life agenda technologies that are very high in magic, that are very high in their spiritual capacity, capability, and frequency, but the light can still fool you, and it is not correct geometry. So if it is not correct geometries, we would then call that an artificial geometry. So yeah, just let's open that can of worms up, brother.
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel when I first sent you that info?
Yeah. It was.
I was like, just have a look at this, you know? Yeah.
It was the first time that I've ever like experienced someone giving me a warning about anything in like the spiritual realm. And
it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's like, uncomfortable, yeah.
Yeah. Because you like the law of one and everything. It's like, yeah, but I can use it for the good. But Yeah. So it was triggering, I guess I would say, but also it was perfect timing, because I had like read about Trismegistus the other day, got excited, told you about it, and then you like, yeah, just check it out, this other information, and so it wasn't hard for me to like, okay,
yeah, you hadn't
go
created a big attachment yet. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you caught me in the right.
Phew.
Yeah.
Phew. Yeah. And I mean, let's go further into that. Like when you know, and it's not so much for your story's sake, but like for others, like if someone was asking you, okay, cool, what does this mean? Like when you said it, or when I said it's kind of triggering to get a warning about spiritual information. This leads us to the topic of false light. And like how have your thought systems and belief patterns changed since, I guess, receiving the information that not all that is out there under the spiritual flag and the spiritual banner is indeed good for you and could actually be quite detrimental for you?
Yeah. So I have landed in going, yeah, it makes it easier for me to just, I will walk my own path. And that has always like been a very big thing for me. I've had a hard time like with doubt, and you know, we've talked about this a lot. I like I've come from like being sort of an atheist, and like I have I've had a lot of doubts about everything, and all I've like realized is I only have myself, and I have silence, and no words has been my like core mantra. So it's always nice to just hear someone let these things go, and I'm like, yeah, cool, that's no problem.
Because it's so intense now, and I'll share with you because you know me a little bit more, but it's like there's a group that I'm on that I have obviously purposefully joined as a conscious decision to assist me in not falling behind in the time space, not falling behind on anything, and not allowing myself to be disillusioned by the fact that I'm on point, or I've reached the final destination. Like my knowledge, that which I am learning as the creation story at this point in time, is the ultimate, right? So I joined this group because it's pretty fucking high level, for lack of a better word. There's just no other way. I'm sorry, guys. There's just no other way I can describe it. Like the shit that gets spoken about on this group, I'm just like, it certainly provides me with that which I asked for, as in, one, humility. Like I don't know shit. Two, like, what the fuck do I do with all this information? Like, is this, it's a beautiful dance. I think dance is always a good word, dance and play. It's a beautiful dance between making sure that you don't feel you've ever arrived on your spiritual path. So that's the humility. And also being acutely aware that dare I say it, but from what I can tell, 90, maybe even higher, let's cap it at 90% of light work is shadow work. Like the shit that we are uncovering based on AI and false geometries is just mind-boggling, mind-blowing. And it kind of I may not fully understand it, but it makes sense to me that this could be in existence. First of all, because how the fuck has it come into the reality if someone's consciousness has not received this information, right? That's where I'm always like, I'm happy to play. Like, I'm happy to play and read this because it's come from somewhere, right? It's come from somewhere and it's pretty high tech, right? And it also makes sense to me based on the billions of years the earth has been in existence as a consciousness herself, and how, I mean, we can just say, yeah, for a couple of thousand years now on earth, it's not been so great. It's not been terrible either. It's not been terrible either. Please don't misunderstand me, everybody. Like, I think the earth realm, her beauty, and her waters, the mountains, wow, the things that we can do and play within this reality as true creator beings is phenomenal, outstanding, incredible. But holy shit, 90%.
A lot of souls are being controlled in a dark way.
Yes. And now, and like, so this is the thing. It's like, I would call myself quite awakened, on the path, pretty much committed to the path, enlightenment, liberation, right? Let's say liberation more than enlightenment, but maybe they're the same thing. There's no separation. But the more I dig in, I'm like, fuck. fuck. And then when you're in that space, you don't want to gaslight yourself. You don't want to say, well, then I don't know anything, because then what is unity consciousness about? Unity consciousness is helping each other through this experience. And if all you can provide is an apple, or pulling someone up from the ground and walking them across the street, then that has to be enough. I don't know, like, we have to come back to, like you say, the silence as the overarching thing. Because when we go, and fuck, I fear, and I simultaneously fear and know that this AI stuff is only going to get more intense. Like, I'm reading about like arachnids and these species of like spider species, and how they are like an AI. I mean, as you can hear, I'm incapable of constructing a full sentence because I'm just like, holy shit, you know? Yeah. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there.
But so it's important with the silence, and then it's important to remember play, and remember, like, whatever systems were before, we can always create a new system. And what was I gonna say? But I think it's beautiful that there's a shift now, and hopefully we'll be able to take this new path and shield it from the AI somehow.
Or integrated. I just always, shielding versus,
that's probably, like, all are one, so in the end it will be
And also I think this is where defining for oneself what individualized consciousness means to the person, while moving through the alchemical process of unification into the all one. Because when one has the identity of self through this unification process, we can always return to our individualized pillar and go, thank you, I know this is part of the source creation field, but as a free will being, as individualized consciousness, labeling myself as Nils or Brigitte, I don't wish to interfere with this coding. So thank you so much. Like, I don't need to shield myself. It's just a heart resonance that's not a code I want to entertain, nor do I want to play with. And that is, I think, how I describe it for myself, from the aspect of God's sovereign free, of like, I get it. I don't, or I perceive to get it, but like, I get that I don't want to play with that, but I no longer need to shield myself from that, because I'm strong enough, I'm wise enough. And of course there's different schools of thought, because again, if you dive into this information, you would be like, oh my God, should I walk around with a string of garlic around me now? And like a pitchfork, like it can get fucking intense. As you can see, my vein popping out. Yeah, it can get fucking intense. Like, and yes, I mean, I've said this now, but then I also come back to plant medicine space, where it's like, man, oh man, do I know? I'm saying this from a very personal space right now. Like, I'll begin the sentence again. Man, oh man, do I know that I hold a very good ceremony. But man, oh man, and woman of mankind, am I also fully aware that I don't know shit? And I feel I know more, I feel I have more knowledge than most. And I know you cannot do any wrong, because there is no wrong and right, but there's a code of ethics that would say, well, if XYZ information has come your way, then you need to be even more discerning, even more responsible. And to open people up through psychedelic journey space is a fucking huge responsibility, of which I had another shift yesterday of like, oh my gosh, again, man and woman, oh man, oh woman, do I know I'm good at this? But fuck, I don't want to play God, even though I know, like maybe I can play God in my own little realm, my own world, but fuck, it's intense.
Yeah. It's hard to balance that. I understand.
Yeah,
because the more you learn about anything, or the more you learn about God, the more you feel like you have to incorporate that into the perfect ceremony, and eventually what are we gonna do? We just have to be able to
and the reason I bring this up is yesterday I as you know, I've been on a 5-month space of no psychedelics, right, or no psychoactives, and I phoned the woman who kind of denied me a session with her. She was like, you will not get the session until you're 9 months clean. 9 months, obviously a birthing process. Great. I've had such a powerful process through this space of being grounded, actually, and grounding my channel, that I messaged her yesterday, and I was like, I just wanted to say thank you very much. This has been one of the most powerful processes ever for me. Like, it's been one of the most powerful processes. And of course, I've had many powerful processes, but it has been super amazing. And she messaged me back, and she's a healer and metaphysicist that I really honor and trust. And she messaged me back, and she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, because I've been feeling like, am I making a mistake? Like, obviously I'm not the only person she's told, and I haven't given her shit though. I've given her gratitude. Others have been giving her shit and saying, well, how can you be judgmental? I met you in an ayahuasca ceremony. And she's going, well, I am just tired of being a laundromat. This were her words. I'm tired of being a laundromat. So I just come in and I clear all your shit, and I clean all your shit, and I bring your blueprint back to its original, coding. And you go and open yourself up on medicines, and it fucks the coding up, right? And so she reverbalized this, and then she said something like really heart opening, heart softening, and heart wrenching at the same time. And she said she was telling her son how she would hope that while she is still on the planet in this incarnation, that she would be able to take the plants again, because they are amazing and they have so much to teach. But until things settle multidimensionally, she just doesn't think it's a wise idea. And this is a woman who is literally like yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go further into it. I think the weight of that statement of this woman who used to sit next to the shaman in Aya ceremonies, who's like, I will not work with you because I'm tired. I'm left. She said, I'm a walking ghost. You know, I have to go and do all this cleaning for everybody to realign your blueprint back to its divine, original, organic blueprint. And here we are sitting in ceremony after ceremony, or just smoking our joints. And again, please know, everybody, I don't have all the answers. I'm not saying that I do. I'm just saying this is food for thought. And I'm bringing this up particularly with Nils because as a brother of mine who I've spent more time with than most friends, or than a lot of friends, we've gone into deep conversations, and I know I can go into this with him on this call. So yeah, it was deep again yesterday, where I'm like, oh, well, if this woman's like, what are we not seeing? Like, how much do we not know? How much more do we not know? And I think it's a whole fucking lot.
Yeah, because you feel, the times are weird. Like, everyone can tell you that, but how deep does it go? And I don't think it is something inherently bad with the medicine, but
no,
the times are so crazy. Like, we don't know who's tapping in and what's coming in and out.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like goosebumps all over my body right now.
Yeah. You know, and again, I think the deepest teaching of this is casual marijuana smoking, actually, because we use it so casually. So let's say, for example's sake, we take plant medicine, but we're in the presence of a very strong shaman, hopefully. Praise be. Hopefully you're in the presence of a very strong shaman who understands grid works, etc., etc. Great. You feel safe, you feel confident, you've done your own set of grid work. Cool. We go in, we dive in. But casual marijuana use, I mean, it's like, that's like a no to her, you know. She's like, no, none of it. The moment you open up, it's like, ooh, and this technology comes in, and we don't fucking know. Humbly said, you know. So yeah, it's a deep topic. You know, those of you listening, if you've got some thoughts, feeling, questions that you want to post below, please feel free. Again, please know that at this part of the creation story for me, I am very capable of authentically saying, I am trying my best. I feel like I have learned a lot and I'm on the right path. But even then, I've thought that many times before and been rudely awakened and been like, maybe that person wasn't so good for me. Maybe that teacher wasn't in alignment for me. Maybe this person was like my actual teaching of the darkest arts training ever, you know. Like, fuck. And then also, like, I think this is the greatest teaching of non-attachment. Like, okay, wusa. Yeah. So thanks for that deep dive, Nils. Jesus. What is most exciting for you that you are looking forward to in the AZURITE Temple?
To find my next goal, I think.
Okay.
Nice. So I've been stable and strong for a long time now, but last year or so I felt like, but what should I do? What should I do now? I'm excited to grow more and be it will be my first time in like a community like this, since like church when I was 12 or something. So that's really exciting. So I'm excited to like connect with new people and find a new direction to
nice. Beautiful. Is there anything like at this point that actually I do want to speak about this? You mentioned, you know, you've mentioned church, you've just mentioned it, so this is perfect interlude for this. But like, you know, when I was there in Sweden last year, this witch wound was coming up within me, where I was like, oh, it feels like I need to be very careful of what I say here. Like, there's a big, I don't know if we would use the word colonial indoctrination of Catholicism, that was very, very tangible for me last year. I was like, oh fuck, people, this is intense. Like, I'd love your thoughts, views, and just shares on how you think this has affected Sweden, its culture, or let's speak to the Scandinavians,
Yeah.
you know, in general.
Yeah, I know it's been similar in Norway with the Christianity. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it goes far back and it goes deep. So we were Vikings in the south of Sweden, and they were the Sápmi in the north of Sweden, and Christianity came and overtook it all. And for the Vikings, it mostly, yeah, most people seem to just adapt the new way, and like the shamans and the witches and everyone else had to hide, so the old traditions remained, but the mainstream became Christian in, I don't know, 100 years, whatever. And the Sápmi were forced and put into school and their communities, and like the children were forced
much
to,
like the Aboriginals.
yeah, and the Native Americans, yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
And then Christianity, like, there's so much guilt, and like it was used by the state and like to control people so much. So it's been a very dark part, I feel, for Sweden in many ways. Like, you can meet the light in church as well, but you have to be a very specific person to be able to achieve that. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper here again, because we know each other very well, so I have content. But you know, I don't know if you guys as listeners know this, but Sweden has the highest percentage of suicide rates among men in the world. You know, do you want to chat a little bit about that?
Yeah.
You know, as like linking in with what we've discussed, because for me it feels like there's just this, it's also definitely the agenda now, and I don't know how long those statistics have been running, but it's all linked, right? It's all linked. I'd love your perspective on it.
Yeah, so I think that has a lot to do with the guilt and the shame, and I see it coming from the Swedish Christianity a lot. So people got fed up with Christianity, and most people are atheists now in Sweden. But one thing that like remained from the Christian part is like, yeah, you have to do right by God, and you can be, yeah, you have to there's so much guilt and shame in Swedish society. And yeah, you have to learn the right things and think the right things and earn the right amount of money. Like, it's very deeply ingrained. And now that most of people are cut off from any spiritual practice and any spiritual thought, they don't have much light to take to.
Creation energy. There's no creation energy.
No, so
and
they're lost, and they are ashamed and think they are failures, and they don't have anything outside of themselves to help them. If they don't have a loving family, it's dark.
And it's interesting because I don't know why, this may be a false statement, I don't know why, but please just hold the space, everybody. But there's this part of me that feels like the Swedish men are quite emasculated as well. So that they're very in their feminine, and it's like that whole, and Jordan Peterson would probably have a field day with this topic, of like, men have been emasculated, so we don't have that fire energy. We've just become shells, and not that the feminine energy is a shell, but within a masculine, within the masculine body, it's like that fire, that masculine energy isn't driving. And like you say, it's just this like subdued, they feel failure, they feel shame, etc., etc. And I think it's really, really intense.
There's a lot of things stacked on top of each other.
Yes.
I didn't think about that, but the like woke ideology and all that has been very.
It feels like if they're in the center of an onion, this onion is fucking huge. Like they're just like, like the biggest onions on the planet, just like waiting to let those peel. Like, the one layer is the woke, the other layer is the this, the other layer is. And I actually also wanted to ask you, like, what is your thought process on labeling yourself as atheist, and that possibly being a bypass? Because if we label ourselves as atheists, do we just drop the topic of philosophy and religion altogether, and we just say none of it exists? And through that, from my perspective, would be a bypass, because we could say, well, an atheist's mind, if they thought a little bit about it and they said, okay, cool, God doesn't exist, da, 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 how could this man in the sky rule us all? Great, perfectly logical thought process. But then we would inevitably come to some sort of creation story, right? And that creation story may be simulation theory, right? It's all a simulation or whatever. So I'm curious to ask you what you think atheism means to most people, or do they just describe themselves as that and then drop the topic? Or do they think further? Do you think?
I mean, mostly in my experience, I see people just not, just bypassing or just brushing it aside and hoping that the other parts of their reality will
come right. Or whatever. So again, complete a passive way of living. Like you have no, there's no creativity, there's no life force, there's nothing. And
then of course there are those people who do think a lot about it and are very like, some of them are very depressed by it, and some of them they trudge on. But like the normal mainstream, I feel like it's just they don't realize what weird bubble they're in, and they just move forward.
And it's interesting because Sweden's interesting because your government actually on the outside would look as one of the most supportive governments in the world, right? Like you guys.
Say that again.
I'm saying it's interesting because from the outside, so from someone like me, my perspective is your government would look to be a government that is one of the most supportive governments in the world. Like as in you are really looked after. Right. Yet
a lot of support, economic support, for sure.
But I mean we can go deep down the conspiracy theory hole here. But why is there so much support? Has it created a docile community where people are passive and they don't actually need to have a creative flair? I think you were telling me about this, like does true powerful empowered creation come from chaos? I think you were telling me that. Or is the structure just passive? Is too much structure creating too much of a passive being in Sweden?
Right now, I don't feel that very strongly, but I haven't thought about it in a while. But yeah, I mean, now I think more about like not the economic thing, but like pharma. Like I think more about like sertraline and antidepressants. That's it. Yeah, so that's a supportive government right there. And yeah, if you're sad, we give you the right pills, and then you don't. Then also you don't have to think about all the stuff that makes you sad. But yeah, that's yeah, that's a creativity killer, I think.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, that's also a big part of Swedish culture right now. And a lot of people identify closely with like being depressed and like feeling a lot of pride in taking their medicines and stuff. And I think a lot of normal people just give up on true happiness too early. Because it's illegal to take care of yourself with plant medicine in Sweden, and it's considered weird and stupid and woo woo to do most of the meditations and shamanic work and stuff. And and it's been such a long path. It started with Christianity, doing the stigma on the witches and the shamans, and it's just continued. Then atheism came and pushed it even deeper down, and and as you said, now the onion layers keep coming.
I mean, I'll close off there and say, you know, part of whenever antipsychotics and medication is mentioned, it just brings such a sadness to my heart. Again, listeners, please understand that I understand when Western medication is absolutely vital in a person's reality and their transformation. I do understand that. But as a mask for your entire reality for 30 years of your existence for big fat cats to get fucking rich, I'm not into that story, and I'm not afraid to say that. But again, this was coming to a closing, and that closing is to say that part of the AZURITE Temple, this is what really excites me about this coaching container, is not only the community support system that we'll be creating through the container, the individualized work that everybody gets done for their own individual consciousness, but that part of the money and the funds are, I'm going to try find someone who's like a money guru, you know, to help us a little bit and grow the money. And it's going to go to the land, or a land project where we can help build little houses and things for people who are going through depression, anxiety, psychosis, and come and get shamanic help, for lack of a better word. And this is really, really exciting in my reality, because as you know, Nils, I've had a whirlwind of a holographic experience reflect back at me this year of what psychosis looks like, and stemming from bipolar, etc., etc. So, and again, understanding, take what resonates, leave the rest, guys. There are 100 million probabilities out there in terms of how you view the world, your belief systems. Ultimately, I have no doubt that from Nils as well as myself, we send you all the love in the world. To my brother Nils, thank you.
Thank you.
I enjoyed this chat, and look forward to having you on the temple. Ciao, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brigitte.
Pleasure.